Hey, what's going on, friends, family? My name is Skylent, and the survival crafting genre is blossoming, it's booming, it's huge, and at the same time brimming with games that have no players. I think so many games in this genre are entirely underrated, and at the same time, a lot of games in this genre are really overrated and just ridiculously popular, despite, maybe they don't deserve it. But I picked out some games that I personally enjoyed, or games that I feel like have a really good formula going on, like something unique about them, some interesting mechanics, and overall have low reviews, low review scores, lower player counts than the big boys, and at the same time, people do play these games. People do find these games interesting, and I think if you haven't heard of any one of these, maybe through this video, you can now give it a shot. If you find one that you want to try, give the thumbs up to the video, and let's keep the hype alive. Here we go, top 10 survival crafting games that no one plays. Alright, first up on our list, number 10, I've got Cardlife. Cardlife is a game that is, I think, the only one on this list that is set at a hard mixed reviews on Steam. Yet, when I played it, and many other journalists, whenever we got to play in early access, it was enjoyable. It reminded us so much of Minecraft, except with cardboard, and maybe that's an issue. Maybe it's like, oh, this is just like Minecraft, lesser, but with cardboard. But at the same time, I think it's so friendly, and I don't know, maybe the cost is prohibitive. I'm not sure. A lot of people feel like this game could have gone further, reached for the stars, but in the end, my experience, I liked it. So there's a lot of reasons why you're gonna hate this game, or maybe hate a lot of games on this list, but somewhere, somehow, I think one of these games is gonna reach you guys. But Cardlife is a really cool game. The main gimmick, though, other than being just like Minecraft and being made of cardboard, the fact that it's made out of cardboard allows you to kind of carve out very specifically different, like moon shapes or heart star shapes, and you literally are carving and cutting just like in real life cardboard and shaping the world around you, your houses, even your own mask and your own character. So that little bit of personalization, I think, makes it really fun, and for the whole family as well. Now, next up on the list, we have a game that is a little bit known, but some people consider it one type of genre, some people consider it another. So let's kind of talk about that controversy. For one, though, all over reviews are mixed, but the recent reviews are very positive, which is a good sign. So I guess in early access, it was kind of full of itself, but now it's maybe a little bit more refined. Maybe it needs more refinement, but hey, it's an interesting game overall. I think a lot of people would parallel this with Ark Survival Evolved, but with magic and stuff. I don't think that's too far from the case. All in all, though, some people say that it's an MMO, and that's debatable. It's got RPG features, and it is online. Maybe some servers can get to an MMO kind of potential, but if you go into this thinking it's going to be something like Black Desert or some of the other popular sandbox games like Arcade, you're gonna be probably mistaken. It's first and foremost, it's a survival game. It's a survival game with magic, and then from there it can, it gets bigger and better, sure, but it's going to come with all the awkwardness and all the ugliness that generally befalls the genre. But if you generally play this genre, maybe you've seen this game before, but at the same time, maybe that little twist, the magic, the dragons and stuff, maybe that's exactly what you're looking for. Echo. This is a game that I think is going to generally maybe appeal to only half of you guys. So half of you guys like the survival aspect of survival and crafting, and then you like the crafting aspect, the other half of you. Eco is, I think, really focused less on like battling dragons and stuff like that. Not much less so. But it's really more about management. It's almost a management game, but you do actually play as a player running around, and you do your normal Minecraftian kind of stuff, and you're going to be building up cities. And the main gimmick here is that you need to progress your civilization. You need to progress through the technology tiers in order to get to a point where you can save the world from a meteor. But in doing so, industry and such and human progress kind of takes a toll on the planet around you. So you might actually overfarm, or maybe, or just really mess up the ecosystem around you. That's why the game is called Eco. So you got to kind of manage that. It is actually online. They just added in like player governments and player trading and bonds and loans and things like that. So that's more of the kind of game that this is. It might seem a little bit more dry, but for those more mature in the audience, a little bit older, I think that this is going to be the game that really appeals to you and is much different, even though on the surface it looks very similar to many survival crafting games. Okay, friends, stay with me for this one, please. It's a weird one. It's called 1 Hour, 1 Life. And I'm just gonna read the Steam description. So it's a multiplayer survival game of parenting and civilization building. No, really, guys, you literally spawn babies, which then become players. You get born to another player as your mother, live an entire life in just 1 hour. 1 hour, 1 life. You literally have a lifespan of 1 hour. You got to do in that time. Yeah. You have babies of your own, which turn into other players, obviously, and you leave a legacy for the next generation of players. So basically, the whole point, though, of this generational sort of gameplay, obviously, other than being a really weird gimmick, the game also graphics, so cute. The sound effects are, I believe, entirely voiced. It's so adorable. Game is really weird. But also, the true gameplay is building up through the different tech trees as an entire persistent server, as civilization. You work towards that goal, which, I don't know, a lot of weird stuff all coming together for this game that I think gives it some charm. A little bit of awkwardness, but some charm. Okay, so now we have colony survival, which I really hope that this idea becomes a little bit more popular. I know we have management survival games, such as They Are Billions, and also Frostpunk. That's really cool. I like strategy games that are more survival-oriented. But this is also crafting survival. So you are actually crafting this colony and building it up from scratch, to a village, to a kingdom, to a city, all the way up, and you're trying to survive because every night you get attacked by hordes of monsters. And right here, you are going to see that it does look kind of a little bit Minecrafting. It's a first-person game as well, so you are going to be kind of running around punching trees to an extent, the usual gameplay loop. But what you do, the further the advanced loop is actually, building up this entire colony. So I want to see more games like this. Another one that I actually showed off a little bit in the intro was a game called The Warhorn, which also has this sort of aspect. I want to see more survival games that are not just about you surviving or just you and your friends, but you and NPCs and building a kingdom and then wave survival. I like that stuff. Colony survival is the one that I think is kind of spearheading that sort of idea. Moving through, Dig or Die, halfway on the list. We've got a game that I think is really kind of a right balance of, it's somewhat known, like some people do play it, people who do love this sort of wave survival type of gameplay, 7 Days to Die, as well as the game I just mentioned, Colony Survival. Dig or Die is that concept. At night, monsters attack. And you do need to hole up, you need to, get turrets and build up a really defensive base. And at first glance, it does look a lot like Terraria. There's going to be that exploration factor running through the world, gathering materials, and going back to your base to, try not to die. So you dig or you die. But one extra layer, other than the cute, cheesy graphics, I think is going to be the physics-based gameplay. Like, there is actually, like, weather cycles and rain cycles, and you have, like, water effects. Things can drip, things can break. You can't just build infinitely out into the ether like you can in Minecraft, as an example. You have to actually kind of be aware of your structure size and like water and reservoirs and things like that. So, just a little bit added layer, the physics. Yeah, you could be flooded and died. You get flooded by hordes of monsters and die. You can dig and maybe die. I don't know, you might dig and die. But yeah, you should check out Dig or Die. Well, we're in the upper part of the list, so the games should be more lesser known as well as being debatably better or more unique. I don't know, I got a weird taste in games myself, so let me know how I'm doing. Yeah, like, thumbs up, I guess. Terra TECH, open world, sandbox, vehicular, combination. I like games like this. The now kind of dying Robocraft was one of my favorite games ever. And there's actually kind of a somewhat competing game to this, to Terra TECH, which is called Scrap Mechanic. A little different, I mean, obviously, but, still. Really, when it comes to creating, like, vehicles, and really that being the focus, and, like, creating, like, machines and stuff like that, there's not too many games that do more than just that. Games like Besieged or whatever, you literally just make a siege weapon thing. There's other games where you just make basically like a pirate ship, or you just make a spaceship, or even a game like Robocraft where you can make all sorts of different kind of things. It's still just an arena PvP game. So this is a survival game where you're constantly making different machines. You're kind of evolving your own craft, and you're in crafting survival. You're literally like the biggest focus on crafting might just be on this game in terms of like how it's used creatively. So that's up to you. If you guys like vehicles, I don't know, but I kind of like stuff like this. Okay, so Boundless is here. Boundless, that's a game that came out last year, but it's a game that it had a lot of hype, it had a lot of excitement, especially during the downfall of a game called Skyforge, and I think we had like Creativerse launch and a few others that it didn't quite hit the mark, and Boundless as well obviously didn't, live up to the hype in a lot of ways, because I think it kind of fits in a Venn diagram of people who like MMOs, people who like these kind of cute, sort of like, family-friendly stylish games, and then also survival and crafting style, because obviously it looks a lot like Minecraft, but it's supposed to be like online from the get-go, but at the same time it didn't have like the dungeon diving that like Sky Saga had. It doesn't have the intensity of combat that you might get in games like Ark Survival Evolved. It was kind of missing a lot of aspects, but I think in terms of a well-rounded experience, it's still something to be experienced. One thing that's also extremely prohibitive is the pricing, which even compared to like some of these bigger games like Ark, when they were in early access and stuff, like this is a game is $40. Just keep that in mind. But if you got the money, Boundless is a game that exists. Next up is most likely the most popular game on the list, which is debatable why it's so high on a list of games that no one plays, but I'm going to slide it in here because I think for overall its polish, it really appears like it should be more known, more popular, and still compared to all the big boys, it is very, very, very underrated. But The Wild 8 is the game we're talking about right now, and at first glance, it looks kind of like a low poly The Long Dark. And I don't think that's too wrong, though this game, I think it really is enhanced by the cooperation as well. It does go a little bit more beyond just minimalistic Alaskan survival. There is a little, not too much spoilers, but there are secrets to uncover. There is kind of a story, and even though it is a procedural world, there's stuff to do, okay? It's not just random meaningless junk. That's why people who have played it reviewed it pretty highly. Now, The Wild 8, I know it's isometric, and I kind of just want to lay this out. I just want to lay it out here that isometric games don't mean a lack of mechanics. I know it's not over-the-shoulder or first-person shooter gun, shoot 'em up. I understand that, but when a game is actually isometric, that actually can enhance certain aspects of the game, especially a game such as this, where you're kind of stuck in the snow, and you can't really see that far away, and you have to really pay attention to sounds, and also the mechanics whenever you're like actually playing against the survival, the wilderness, the boars, the bears, things like that. It kind of comes into play, okay? So whenever you look at a low poly game like this that costs $25, don't think it's just a lesser version of other similar aesthetic or themed games. It can actually be more, or maybe even like it's focused just on different mechanics. That's all, guys. Give it a shot. And finally, our number one is the game that inspired me to make this list. It's called Crashlands. And even though this list is for PC games, PC survival games, Crashlands, it's kind of weird saying this, but I'm going to suggest you buy the mobile version. I actually do this as well to Don't Starve, the original Don't Starve. But Crashlands is significantly cheaper on mobile devices, and it's like the literal same game, and it controls perfectly fine on mobile, and that's how I play it personally on my NVIDIA Shield tablet, so I don't know, maybe that's just me, but you can also buy it on PC for $15. Regardless, Crashlands, instantaneously when I first played it, reminded me so much of Don't Starve. It was like if Don't Starve was combined with like Adult Swim humor, because it's very ridiculous. It's extremely cartoon. It's extremely colorful as well. And it's so silly, but yeah, in a lot of ways it does directly parallel Don't Starve, which is probably why it's so underrated, because it is so very similar. I mean, despite, the general aesthetic, mechanically and things like that. I will say that the monster fights overall were a little bit more engaging. They're a little bit more in your face as well. And this game isn't as rogue as well. It's not like you're gonna die and your whole game is over. You do actually have like really intense monsters though because of that, because the game is a little bit more forgiving. You're allowed to die, while the monsters will still mess your face up. I really appreciated like the skill shots and things like that. Also the whole science thing and that sort of build path is also really cool. Not too dissimilar from Don't Starve, but overall I enjoyed the combat of this game. So if you want a game that's like Don't Starve but a little bit more focused on the combat, then maybe you will enjoy this. Oh, but I don't really want to be underhand about the comedy. It genuinely is actually very fun. I laughed out loud a few times. So yeah, in a genre that it often doesn't have a story or anything like that. Not that this game is like an RPG or anything, but it's got some character. But yeah, that's gonna be it, guys. That's my 10 survival crafting games no one plays. Now, obviously, some people play these games. It's just to say, like, it's a hidden gem. It's underrated. These are the titles that are still decent, that are still good, that some people might really freaking like. But overall, it's just not the big boys. Okay, so hopefully you found a new game, and if you did, give a thumbs up, I guess. Try to share the video somewhere, somehow. I don't know. Tell Grandma, you should check out Crashlands. Look at this guy. This guy said Crashlands is pretty cool. Yeah. So there's a bunch of games, out there that I probably missed. Oh my god, there were so many during my research and during my playtime in a lot of these. I just can't get to all of them. But I do want to, have another section here. Honorable mentions, the Warhorn and Tribes of Midgard, the ones, the gameplay that's playing now and also in the intro. These games have no players because they are so early access, but you might want to keep your attention to that. And if you want to see me do upcoming lists, like, hey, new upcoming survival crafting games, or just, in general, I want to do lots of list videos and lots of reviews on games that are upcoming, well, kill some eyeballs on the Patreon, and thanks for supporting by throwing down your comments, your thoughts and feelings, donating, and all that good stuff, and sharing the video. It's just, you guys keep the hype alive. My name's Skylent, and I'll see you again next time.